That I'd like for you to meet is Kay Fleming. Kay, would you walk up, please? Kay is running for Attorney General. She's a mother. She has her undergraduate was at the University of Southern Indiana. She graduated from the Indiana University School of Law. And we're very pleased to have Kay with us tonight to speak to us.
Thank you for having me here. What a great ticket we have, and what wonderful, impressive women that we have here tonight. I feel like some of Sharon's thoughts mirror mine. I was a former probation officer, and while I was in law school, I worked for the Indiana Prosecuting Attorneys Council. Then I clerked for a couple of federal judges, including the Honorable Basil H. Lorch III, who's from New Albany. He is a friend and a mentor and was a wonderful boss, and he's a great judge. Some of the things that caused me to get into this race, and I entered the race late, May, June timeframe, so very late. But I looked at some of the decisions coming out. The continued fight to defund Planned Parenthood when the federal government said it's wrong, and it violated federal law, but yet the appeals keep coming from the Attorney General's office. The continued issues that we saw with Department of Children's Services and the children that were dying. As a former probation officer who dealt with Chen's cases, I found that offensive. And I thought there has got to be more that can be done. The right to work, again, I agree. The Republicans are great at putting labels on things, that people don't look beyond it and they take it at face value. You've got to tell them what it is and make them look further. And I'll tell you a story about my dad that just makes that hit home in a few minutes. But all of those things I've been running on since I entered the race. Greg Zeller, the incumbent and my opponent, first said, well, the Attorney General's office can't be involved in DCS. And the Attorney General's office has no place with taking care of the sex offender registry. In fact, at a hearing, his spokesman said, we cannot be involved in the sex offender registry interpretation because we have to handle the appeals. I'm not sure where that person went to law school, but where I went to law school, an attorney can take it from the beginning to the very end. Now, if imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, I'm very flattered because recently in an interview, Greg Zeller promoted the Attorney General being involved in DCS, the Attorney General taking a role in the sex offender registry, and the Attorney General having more communication with local prosecutors. Those are what I've been advocating since the beginning, and I think we need to have regional offices so the Attorney General's office can provide resources to the prosecutors, especially in rural areas where they need assistance. In talking with prosecutors, I was appalled to find out that the majority of the time, as you know, the Attorney General handles criminal convictions, the appeals of criminal convictions. The majority of the time, the prosecutor sees the brief that is filed in that case after it's been filed with the Court of Appeals. I've never represented a client where I did not have communication with him before. So those are things that I'm advocating. Now, Greg Zeller had 4 years to do the things he now says need to be done. He didn't do them the last 4 years. I doubt he'll do them the next 4. So let's make sure he doesn't have that opportunity. Mine is very much a grassroots campaign. Please tell your friends. We do have Facebook and all of those other things. We have a website. But one thing is, my father is 93 years old. He and my mother still live in Warwick County, where I'm from, which is near Evansville, for those of you not familiar with Warwick County. My mom has Alzheimer's and congestive heart failure, and through my and my sister's hard work, we're keeping her at home, and I travel back and forth to see her and take care of her. As I said, she needs 24-hour care. We've kept her at home, but my dad is a lifelong Republican. And he said to me the other day, he proudly wears my button now, but he said to me the other day, he said, how did I raise a Democrat? I said, well, you raised someone who could think for herself, and you did something right, Dad. But in talking with him, and over there it's Dave Crooks versus Larry Bouchard, and in talking with him about the Medicare issue and trying to say, you need to vote for John Gregg and Vi Simpson, you need to vote for Dave Crooks, and you need to vote for Joe Donnelly, I was telling him about the Medicare voucher, and he said, but they're not taking Medicare away. And I said, Dad, so I sat there and I had the conversation about what a voucher is. For my mother, that means 4 months of care. 4 months, and it's gone. Now they say that they're going to grandfather them in, but who knows? They change the rules all the time midstream. And so I talked to him about that, and when I take them to their church events, I talk to him, all of their friends who are all in that age group. So we've got to get out and spread the word, because as we were talking through it, Dad, he was looking and he said, well, I might take your word, and I showed him how they voted, and the one thing he then said is, have you ever met that Murdoch fellow? And I said, no, and he said, well, I've been watching him on TV, and that man is crazy. My 93-year-old lifelong Republican father can figure that out. If we keep talking to people, maybe we can all make them see the light. Thank you very much for having me.